You're watching Man Coverage with Nate Schmidt and James Bonneville on National Streaming Sports.
Good morning, afternoon, everyone. It is February 8th, 2026. This is Man Coverage. I am Knoxville Nate. That is James Peter Bonneville. How in the hell are you doing, James?
Well, at least the weather is a little more stable than it was the last couple weeks. I mean, you had ice and snow throughout the Southland. You had holy crap cold out through the north. I mean, I was wondering if there was going to be a few polar bears picking off receivers here at one moment. So, I mean, my gosh, it's been a little crazy in 2026.
Yeah, we have gone to school, I think like 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days since Christmas. So not real good down here. But we're able to have a show, memorabilia show last weekend, which was the first one I've had since November. And luckily, I couldn't believe it. I didn't think anybody would come because it was snowing like crazy. But people showed up. So that's a good thing. The 2025 season is now in the books, James. And before we get into the off-season talk, we need to wrap up the national championship game, put a big red bow on it, and get our thoughts on what happened. Obviously, as you see down below in the ticker, the Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship 27-21. I think I said 24-19, so I think I was pretty close. We both were, and I think we both selected Indiana, but really, James, how did this happen? How are we here where the Indiana Hoosiers are the national champions of 2025? Well, how did we get here?
If you'd have told me 2 years ago that Indiana would be a football school and Nebraska would be a basketball school, I would be waiting for the Twilight Zone music to start popping on. You got to give Curt Cignetti credit, but really that entire coaching staff. I mean, they have done a lot of those guys came from James Madison, where like the Ponds and the Fishers of the world. But you saw some undervalued assets at other schools, like Fernando Mendoza at Cal. You saw Black and Hemby. Black came from James Madison, Hemby from Maryland. Surratt from Wake Forest. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And I'm impressed that they were able to take that many pieces, bring them together, and pull it off. Like it is like what they did last year, I thought was impressive as all hell. What Cignetti did this year was even more amazing. Now, when you go into the 2026 season, we may be having a different conversation, but Indiana's still going to be pretty damn good. But it's got to be a credit to Shanahan, their offensive coordinator, and Cignetti. I mean, he wins. Plain and simple. Yeah. He knows how to analyze talent. Is what he is known for at Alabama when he coached for Saban.
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing to me that really sticks out is putting these 2 years, stacking these 2 years back to back. It shows that it's not a fluke. It shows that this is a pattern, not a one-off. This guy is what now 25, 26 and 2 in a coach at the major college level. And you can say whatever you want to, everybody can, but when you go through and look at the way that they ran off this title, there's no way you can second guess the Indiana Hoosiers. I mean, they took down the best of the best. If you go back through the college football playoff this year, I mean, I think it was a pretty good playoff. I mean, I like the 12-team system. I don't think they need to expand it. In fact, I have no desire to expand it. But you get a true champion. I mean, Indiana took down Alabama, they took down Oregon, and then they took down Miami. I mean, if you can beat Bama, Oregon, and Miami in 3 straight games after knocking off Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game by 3 points when we missed a field goal by the 10, but I digress. There's no way that you can really doubt who the champion is. Am I right on that? What do you think about the 12-team playoff now that we've had it for 2 years?
We may disagree on some of the group of 5 picks, but I mean, at the end of the day, did they have that much of an effect on who was playing in the semis and the finals? No. And who was there was end up going to be there. Because let's be honest, it means a lot to be in the playoff, but at the end of the day, every team, every 130 teams want to be playing for that national title, no matter if they're Kennesaw State or Indiana. I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, no. And, I don't have a problem with letting a group of 5 team in. I think it's a good thing, especially when you have, the Cincinnatis that we've had in the past, the Boise States, who's actually not a group of 5. And well, they are a group of 5, but you know what I mean? They're an established program. But, we've seen some of these schools deserve a chance. I just didn't understand letting 2 of them in this year. I thought that was a little bit much. But you know what? If you can't get into the 12-team playoff, I'm sorry. That's your own fault. You had the whole season to prove yourself. They took who they thought was the best, and it's like the NCAA tournament. Now they have it where we have 68 teams in the NCAA basketball tournament, and there's still teams that are pissed that they don't get in. And I'm just kind of like, I'm sorry. If
you're 69th, you're going to be pissing and moaning. I mean, there's always going to be the next person's going to be left out, and they're going to be upset. But I mean, at some point, you got to cut the damn thing off. Otherwise, we could be having this damn tournament for till the beginning of spring ball, and then they go right from spring ball into right from the season into spring ball. I mean, I love college football as much as the next guy, but man, I want to see these guys get some rest and recuperate too as well, because they are kids.
Yeah, you can't play 20 games here, guys. We're already pushing it big time with the amount of games that we're putting on these kids' bodies at this point. I don't think it should be expanded, as I already mentioned. I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah.
I think 12 teams is plenty. I mean, really, do we have 12 teams that are good enough to win the national championship? I don't think so. I think this year there was probably 4 or 5, but I think it was evident that Indiana was the best team. I mean, could they have lost 1 game at any point? Yeah, but they proved that they were the best team top to bottom. And if you go back through and look at the national championship game, to me, Indiana did what they did all year long. They ran the football, they threw the football, they blocked, they tackled. They're good fundamentally. And I wouldn't say that they have to, everybody was like, oh, if you stop their run, then you make them one-dimensional. They can't win. I don't subscribe to that at all.
No.
They can throw it just as well as they can run it. Omar Cooper, Becker, Surratt, Nowakowski, Hemby, E.J. Williams. They've got a good group of wide receivers. And then I love both of their running backs, Black and Hemby, as a combination. You can't really beat that. And then the offensive line came together. The right tackle position was kind of their one weak spot, but they managed it with rotating guys in and out. And just looking at this game as a whole, I thought it was basically a synopsis of what Indiana did all year. What did you think about the game against Miami and how Indiana was able to win it?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I had some doubts because Miami was playing at home. We talked about going into that game that was going to be an issue. Miami kept it close. Where I thought the game kind of really turned was in the third quarter. Because the first half was pretty blasé, 10-0 Indiana, but both teams were really entrenching themselves. But that block punt I think had such an effect on this game. I mean, people discount special teams so much, but I can tell you right now, if you've got a good return game and you start the ball at the 40 rather than the 20, that's 2 less first downs you got to get in the end zone. Or hell, better yet, a couple less to even kick a field goal. And you look at it, and I really was impressed with Indiana's special teams in that game. But Mark Fletcher Jr., I mean, that guy can run. That guy is he's got this old school part to his game that I really, really like.
Yeah, I do too. And he proved to be one of the best running backs in all of college football by the way that he, ran throughout this playoff and finishing up in the championship game, 17 carries, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 7 yards a carry. It didn't really matter who Miami was playing. He got it done. And, I don't want to rip on Carson Beck here because I'm not here to do that. I think he did a good job, doing his part. But let's be honest, this team didn't make the national championship game because of Carson Beck. This team was a run-first offense. Yeah. They had Malachi Toney, who was a big play guy. And then they were first and foremost led by their defense. What do you think about this Miami defense, and how did you think they played against Indiana?
I mean, Bain and Mesidor, I thought really played well. I mean, you knew they were going to have an impact, and I mean, quite frankly, I think both of them should hear their name called on the first night too, as well. I mean, Bain's a given. I'm hearing some people pushing Mesidor back to the second round, but I'm like, you look at this, like this crop of DNs in this draft class, this is going to be a really good class. And I put Mesidor in that top 5. One thing that we don't talk about as much is, the offensive line of Miami really has this old school SEC Big Ten mentality where Miami was never known for their offensive line except the year they had Mount McKinney playing left tackle. This offensive line, especially with Managoa at tackle, I mean, I think that kid is a phenomenal run blocker. And the offensive line coach, who is the high school teammate of Mario Cristobal, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was out in Oregon with them and now at Miami. This guy is a gem of an offensive line coach. And that line of scrimmage play was phenomenal.
Yeah, Alex Mirabel.
That's it.
Is his name. And he's known, as a guru in the trenches. He's coached for over 30 years at Oregon, FIU, Marshall. He's kind of known for developing elite talent. But let's be honest, Mario Cristobal was a offensive lineman on the Miami national championship team. I think he has his hand in that as well. And he's good at evaluating these guys. So I give him some credit for that. As well. I'm not taking anything away from Mirabel. I think he's one of the best, but I think, when you have a coach who played the position, I think he can add something there as far as, talent evaluation and figuring out the best guys to put out there. What do you think? What do you think the difference was in this game? Do you think it was Mendoza? Do you think it was just the Indiana being the better team? What the coaching? What do you attribute Indiana being able to get this game done, win it in Miami, in the stadium that Miami plays all of their home games in? How do you think this game was won?
I go back to coaching and special teams, especially you look at that interception that ended the game. I mean, Carson Beck is not no dummy, all right? But the way that Indiana disguised that coverage was unbelievable. I mean, that was an incredible play. They went for broke, and the cornerbacks sat back and waited for the ball. Like, it's as if they knew it was coming, and they stopped it. What Curt Cignetti has done in 2 years at Indiana is, I mean, I really feel for all those Indiana fans that have really struggled throughout all those years. It has to feel so justified to through all the struggle to see what happened in Miami that night.
One of the greatest stories in the history of college football, to be honest with you. One of the losingest programs in all of college football to do a 360 and turn it around. It just was truly remarkable, and it was a thing to see. And one last comment on the Miami offensive line. I think is he the left tackle or the right tackle, number 70, Markel Bell. I think he's right tackle.
Right tackle. Yeah.
My God, that guy is a big human being, 6'9", 345 pounds. And I don't know when they wrote down that 345, but it was probably he probably wasn't standing on the scale when they wrote that down. That dude is a monster and one of the biggest offensive linemen that I've ever seen.
It's almost like watching some of those like Wisconsin offensive lines during the Barry Alvarez era, when you had like Aaron Gibson, who I swear to God was like part of like an eclipse. I mean, you had these offensive line, they're averaging like 340, 350 across the board. I mean, these were mountains of guys. This Indiana defensive line had a lot to work with, because not only do you have to, try to stop them, you got Mark Fletcher running downhill pretty gosh darn hard, ready to take somebody's head out. And everybody's so used to Miami during the Schnellenberger days through really now, where they aired it out. You didn't really think about their running game as being the primary source of that offense, even when they had Willis McGahee and Clinton Portis and Ed James, and like you go down the list, they've had great running backs. But it's always been that freaking passing game that's been the standard point at the U.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And this year they were a run-first team, and they were pretty much able to run on everybody. As we mentioned earlier, they ran on Indiana too. It was just a couple of plays here and there, which is what the national championship usually comes down to. But it was a good game, and I enjoyed watching it. I was really glad that Indiana won. I thought that they were the best team all year long. And, what about the people, James, that said that Indiana was no good, that they played nobody? I mean, we heard this all last year. We heard this a lot of time in the beginning of the year, but now it's over. I think you can't really say that anymore if you're, actually honest with yourself. And now that makes it 3 in a row that the Big Ten has won. What does that say about where the conferences are aligned? I think you have to admit that at this point, at least the best teams are coming from the Big Ten. And I think there's been a paradigm shift since things have been evened up, shall we say? What do you say?
I wouldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. It's funny. The SEC Karens of the world are going to sit there and, it's just Ohio State and Michigan. Well, guess what? Ohio State and Michigan aren't Indiana. And it's not like it's them three and a bunch of freaking morons. I mean, you got teams that are coming up like the Oregons of the world. Do not kid yourself. At some point, Oregon is going to crash through that door. They're going to. You're going to see an Iowa make the playoff. You're going to see other teams in this Big Ten, which is stacked, make the playoff.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten will even be better next year. I think USC will be better. Illinois had a decent season the last 2 years. I think they struggled a little bit this year in some areas, but we're still a good football team. Iowa beat Vanderbilt, in the bowl game. And the bowl season, really, I think, people can say bowl games don't matter, but they do.
Yeah.
They're another game. They're another measuring stick. I don't put everything on the bowls, but I do want to say that you have Big Ten teams playing against SEC teams. And if you think about it, the Big Ten looked pretty good all across the board and ended up finishing 11-5. Some of those losses were when they played each other, including, in the playoff there where Oregon had to play Indiana. So some of that was knocking off each other, but finishing 11-5 was pretty amazing. And I think we need to give a little credit to the ACC. Maybe we undervalued the ACC a little bit as they finished 9-5. and, made the national championship game. What do you think about the ACC, and did we undervalue them, James, in your opinion?
Well, I think so. I mean, granted, is it to the extent of the Big Ten? No. But, I mean, honest to God, if any year, what this year gave us hope to a lot of teams. I mean, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Indiana is now viewed as a football school, and Nebraska is viewed as a basketball school. I mean, what's next? Duke? I mean,
they won the ACC.
They won the ACC. I mean, there is. It seemed like rebuilding is not as daunting as it once was, and there's a lot more talent and really talent development. Just because you're a freaking 5-star when you're 17, 18, doesn't mean you're a for sure thing. There's a lot of players like i.e. Malachi Nelson, who's on his 4th school. Just because you're a 5-star at 15 doesn't mean you're, a dead ringer. You've had plenty of players who really, I mean, hell, look at Fernando Mendoza. That guy grew up, a stone's throw away from Miami and Coral Gables. Went to Columbus High, couldn't get an offer there.
Couldn't get walk on. They wouldn't let him walk on.
Exactly. And he got an offer from Yale, was ready to go to Yale until Cal made a call. Made the trip across the country. And 4 years later, what are we seeing? He's playing against the team he wanted to play for and beat him for a natty. I mean, you can't write this shit. It's that good of a story.
No, they're going to make a movie about this as well. They should.
Yeah.
A kid that, couldn't walk on to Miami from Miami, goes on, becomes the Heisman Trophy winner, wins the national championship with a team that has one of the worst records in all of college football history. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And to watch it play out in real time was truly, truly a marvel. And, I don't know what Fernando Mendoza's NFL career will look like. Probably not very good if he goes to the Raiders, but it doesn't matter. To me, he had one of the greatest seasons of any college football quarterback ever. And if you watch that final touchdown, that to me, I mean, it was just, you couldn't have made a better ending if it was a movie. I mean, that run where he bounced off 3 different people and spun and extended, that to me, that one play kind of embellished his entire year and pretty much his entire career, showing what that guy was about. What did you think about that final play?
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I mean, that was all about this damn thing right here.
Yeah.
It's, you could have all the abilities in the world. You could have all the metrics in the world. But you know something? Those guys with heart, kind of like what Melvin Bratton used to say on the U documentary on ESPN about the University of Miami during the 80s. You got to give a leg. If you got to give an arm, give an arm. If you got to give a leg, give a leg.
Yeah.
Because, I don't care if the guy never plays a freaking down in the NFL. In Bloomington, that man is a legend for the rest of his life. He's bigger than man, but less than a god. And he will be idolized. I mean, hell, people still talk about Doug Flutie's freaking pass, and it's been, 40 years since that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's stories like that. That's what you love about sports in general, especially college sports.
Yeah, they need to erect a statue outside of the stadium there in Bloomington and put number 15 up forever, because that doesn't happen very often, where you get a kid that is that wholesome, that is that good of a person, that not only does it on the field but does it off. And you go back to that Heisman, the post Heisman pressers, and you saw kind of what the difference was between Diego Pavia and Fernando Mendoza, and those two guys couldn't be any different. And that's why Fernando won. First off, he's a better football player. Second off, he's a better human being. And I'm not an Indiana fan by any stretch, but after they beat us and after we lost to Miami, as my Buckeyes, obviously I was cheering the Hoosiers and hoping that they got it done.
Unless you're a Purdue fan, it's really hard not to cheer for Indiana. It really is. I mean, it's just such an awesome story.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it was fun to watch. And, kudos to Curt Cignetti. He deserves everything that he's getting, and he's done it the right way. And he's probably already planning for next year. Let's talk about another coach that's out there that we need to I want to get your opinions on this, James, because we've got to get a handle on this. This all kind of started. Now, this has been going on all across the country. I mean, we've heard Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama. He came out and said that he was contacted by several schools offering him millions of dollars to stay. The Darian Mensah saga with Duke, and how he wasn't even in the portal, and then all of a sudden he's going to Miami for $10 million. Well, then you got the Luke Farrelly saga, who is a linebacker out of Cal. He is signed by Clemson. He is in class at Clemson, getting ready to, play for the Tigers in 2026-27 season. And, the agent starts contacting Dabo, telling him, hey, we're going to need a little more cash. Miami's offering us, $1.5 million more than you guys gave us. We need to talk about this. And Dabo's going, what? What are you talking about? He's here. He's already in class. How on earth is Ole Miss talking to him? And so he calls the young man into his office. He's talking to him face to face. While he is talking to him, Pete Golding, the head coach at Ole Miss, texts the kid and is talking to him about coming to Ole Miss. You know that I'm not the biggest Dabo fan. He's not, my favorite coach. I don't like Clemson a whole lot. I'm not a biggest fan of him. But he's got some solid points here, James. What are we doing where agents and coaches and people can just contact kids? I thought you had to be in the portal for other schools to contact you, James. No one's following these rules. How on earth are we going to fix this to where we have some semblance of truth and honor back in this game? Because right now it's, we said that before it was going to be the Wild West, but it's even worse than I imagined, James.
It's going to have to get worse before it gets better. You and I both know that. I mean, Dabo tries to make this like tampering 101 or tampering 201. And I don't disagree. This is completely tampering. But I could name you plenty of other examples, hell, this year and previous years. I mean, hell, look at the Williams quarterback up at Washington. Yeah. He signs that ridiculous deal. I think the only way this is going to work is if that new body actually enforces the rules, but more importantly, that one of these schools actually takes these kids to court for being in violation of the contract. Because otherwise, what's the point in even signing a contract?
Yeah, I don't understand why they're doing contracts with these kids. The contracts aren't worth the paper that they're printed on. And I kind of understand, I guess, why Duke dropped their lawsuit against Mensah. First off, Miami agreed to just pay them whatever money they wanted. But also, Duke doesn't want to be, these schools don't want to be that bad guy that is suing players and, suing other schools. And then, the other schools say, hey, Florida State's like in on a guy with Duke. And they're like, why do you want to go to Duke? If you try and leave, they're going to sue you. So I understand, I guess, why Duke dropped their lawsuit. But somebody's going to have to make a stand.
Correct.
And someone's going to have to make these contracts either enforceable or not. And I don't understand why. I heard an interview with Kirby Smart, and one of his ideas, and I'm forgetting the name of it now, but he called it something. But basically, the gist of it was that if you stay at a school for 2 years, you get more money. If you stay at a school for 3 years, you get even more money. And you're incentivized by staying at the school that you're at. And then if you go to another school, those the school that you go to has to pay back the school that the kid came from. Now, will this solve every problem? No. Will this maybe incentivize some of the guys to stay where they are? Maybe. But there has to be something done to limit the transferring. I don't care if kids want to go to a school, they don't like it, they want to go to another school, they change their mind, whatever. I don't care. But just going to 4 schools in 4 years, or going to 7 schools in 5 years, or some of these, what we're seeing of some of these players, it's not sustainable in my mind, and it's not really good for anybody. What do you say?
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, it's just they've become gladiators, and at the end of the day, they're just kids. I mean, yeah, they're really good athletes, no questions asked, and I hope the best for them, especially at the next level. But man, it is just, it's so insane. It is absolutely so insane.
Yeah, and they, we talked about it. You mentioned it. This new committee on infractions that's supposed to, kind of be independent and is supposed to kind of enforce these rules. They're not even up and running yet.
No.
And that's a problem, because we have schools that are kind of abiding by the rules and kind of doing adhering to the guidelines as you were. And then we have other schools that are spending every dollar that they can trying to stack talent, like Bama and Georgia and Clemson and, some of the other schools used to do. They're trying to do it, with cash. And it's working. I mean, I'll name them: Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Oregon, Miami. Are they adhering to any of these guidelines or rules with the way that they're tossing money around? I don't think they are. And there has to be this committee has to come in, get it together, and people that tamper, people that are calling players that are already under contract that aren't in the portal. I mean, this is pretty easy rule. If the kid is in the portal, you can call them and ask them to come. If they're not, you can't contact them. How is that so hard, James?
Not only you can't contact them, you can't contact their parents,
their agent,
any subsidiaries.
Yes.
I mean, you and I both know, I bet you some of these schools are contacting girlfriends, best friends, mothers, dogs, parents. I mean, they're trying to find any hook possible. And it's not just football. It's basketball too. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in volleyball. I mean, they will do anything to win, because at the end of the day, flags fly forever. When you win a natty, flags fly forever.
That's true. But, do you want to have credibility? Do you want to have honor? Do you want to have, an asterisk next to it? I mean, obviously, schools like Michigan don't care. Obviously, the schools that I just named don't care. But let me tell you, if some of these if they actually start enforcing some of these rules, and these coaches get suspended for a year, or these players are ruled ineligible, then they're going to care, James. And I think that's what you're going to have to do. It's not that hard to figure out. If you turn over a kid's cell phone records, and he's gotten contacted by schools and he wasn't in the portal on those dates, bam.
Hell, I'm willing to go a step farther. And this is the nuclear option. And they said they would never do this again. But what about the death penalty? SMU had it, and look how long it took SMU to get out from those doldrums. It's going to be a lot easier in the NIL era. But guess what? I mean, if we don't put real teeth behind these punishments, you and I both know they're just going to keep doing it, because what's the point? What, you're just going to get your hand slapped? Was there going to be a stern letter sent to you?
Well, I'm telling you this, some coach, you suspend, what's the guy's name in Oregon? I'm blanking. Head coach Dan Lanning. You suspend Dan Lanning for a year. That's a stern punishment. First off, he makes $10-11 million annually. Second off, the coach going out there with no coach, making these players ineligible. I mean, death penalty maybe, but I'm just saying start with that. These kids are ineligible for the entire season. They can't make any money if they're not playing. Yeah. That's a pretty serious punishment, and I think that's where you're going to have to at least start. And hopefully, I'm praying that this committee actually has some power, because that's the only way that this is going to get fixed, and that's the only way we can get back to where we want to be. I mean, it's never been fair. I'm not saying that we're going to make things fair, because it's never really going to be fair. But you can't just have people coming in and poaching guys after you've worked so hard to get them. That seems beyond ridiculous. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously, Dabo, I guess, didn't really want to be the poster boy for this, but somebody that has serious credibility is going to have to do it. And I guess it's going to have to be him. He's got 2 national championships. He's got how many ACC titles? He's got how many trophies? He's got a lot. If he can go out there and champion this thing, I think that may help stuff. Not that I'm the biggest fan of his, but I do applaud him for at least standing up for what he believes is right. And, not saying he's never done anything bad in his life, because all of us are flawed. Yeah. But, I think somebody's got to go and do something.
Well, hell, did you hear about the whole Mr. Beast and East Carolina stuff that's happening right now?
What do you mean?
Mr. Beast, the YouTube billionaire, I guess.
Yes. My daughter loves him.
Yeah, he made a comment about, wouldn't it be cool if I spent $100 million on East Carolina and see if they become a national champion? And I thought this was a joke. Supposedly East Carolina and Mr. Beast are talking. I mean, now it's going to be, it's like every school needs their freaking T-Boone Pickens.
Yeah. Otherwise, well, some of them don't have them.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the reasons that some of these schools aren't spending the same amount as other schools, because everybody's got millionaires and everybody's got donors and everybody's got millionaire donors. But now it's coming down to how many billionaire donors do you have? And let me tell you, some of them don't have any. I mean, I'll just use, my team as an example. The Buckeyes have tons of people that donate money. The Buckeyes have a plethora, as Three Amigos would say, of people that are millionaires and people that make hundreds of thousands of dollars that donate money. They don't have that many billionaires. And that's why, they're falling back a little bit in some of this recruiting, because, the guy at Texas Tech and the guys, the oil people in Texas A&M and some of the billionaires in Austin, they're dropping buku bucks. And I'm talking about millions at a time on the program. And, that's going to end up paying off for them as we go forward here. But let's talk, because this is making me nauseous. Let's move on, shall we, to what we just wrapped up, and that was the 2026 from the 2025 season, the Panini Senior Bowl. We're going to talk a little bit about our winners and our losers from the game. And why don't I go first, James? And I'll throw out the guys that kind of did it for me, and then you can do the same and also comment on the guys that I mentioned. One dude that I thought really stood out was Nussmeier. This guy, the quarterback gets all the credit when things go well. He takes all the blame when things go poorly. First off, I think he was dinged up. He got hurt, the last week of camp. It lingered. He had an oblique issue. It definitely hampered him, but also, LSU couldn't run the football. And that's a big problem when you can't, one-dimensional. That's just that allows the other team to key off on you and to tee off on you, and stop the pass, because they know you're not going to be able to run it because you can't do it. And I think that's what happened at LSU this year, because all week at practice, Nussmeier looked pretty good. He was able to make all the throws. even in the game, he did pretty well. There was some drops. There was 2 drops that happened that were really bad. I think there was actually 3 or 4, but he still managed to lead the team down the field and looked pretty solid. So I think Garrett Nussmeier really helped him. We're going to break down all the quarterbacks here in just a minute, but I just want to throw out the guys that really stood out to me. Nussmeier, I think Kalen Black, the running back from Indiana, proved once again that he's a guy that can play at the next level. He had 8 carries for 45 yards, 2 catches for 9, and looked just like he did all year long. A guy that I was very high on all year and really think he's twitchy, he's bendy, he's got power, he's got speed, is Zion Young, the defensive MVP out of Missouri. I think he is a guy that's probably going to go in the first round. I think he should. The linebacker out of Oregon, Bryce Bachcher, he was everywhere. This guy, I believe, played pro baseball or was drafted by Major League Baseball and was going to be a professional baseball player. Well, he's pretty damn good at football, too. He had 10 tackles and a pass breakup. And then also the Boston College edge rusher, Quintavious Hutchins. He looked pretty good. He had 3 tackles for loss, a pass breakup, and had a huge stop on a 2-point conversion. Those were my guys, my 5 guys that really stood out to me. James, what did you think about those dudes, and who did you think really helped themselves that I didn't mention?
You nailed it on the head with Zion Young. He was going to be part of my list. Just the film I saw of him. Honestly, there were a lot of D linemen I thought that really showed out in the practices. It seemed like every time I turned around, offensive linemen were getting trucked on a fairly regular basis on one-on-ones, and Zion Young was one of those guys. Now, Garrett Nussmeier, he didn't really show much this year because, they had a whole crap load of problems. The running game, they weren't regular LSU. And I still believe that Garrett Nussmeier has real talent. I don't believe he'll be a 1st or 2nd round draft pick. I think earliest to be 3rd, but I still believe there is a future for him in the NFL. He's got the ability, but he's got the smarts too as well. His dad, former OC, former pro football player for the San Diego Chargers, now the LA Chargers. This guy understands the game quite a bit, and he can make the throws. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up because I could see him in 3-4 years being a starter somewhere. Now, the rest of that quarterback class did not do well during the practice runs, especially little Diego Pavia. What did he come in at, like 5'9" something? He made Kyler Murray seem tall in comparison when they did their measurements. Is that right, Nate?
Yeah, he was a little scratch over 5'9". My question is, what were they measuring him with down in Vanderbilt? Because they had him listed at 6 foot, and he was nowhere near that. I told you that when I saw him live. I said, first off, let's tell the truth. I was very impressed with what he did in the game here that I went to when Tennessee played Vanderbilt. I did not think he would be that good, and he played very well and should be commended for the season he had. I wish he would just shut up and let what he did on the field talk for him, but he couldn't do that. But he's not a big man, and I think that's going to hurt him. I've heard quarterbacks who are 6'1", 6'2", that have trouble seeing over offensive lines. Let's be honest, everybody that plays the NFL, almost every offensive lineman, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'7", 6'8", you name it. And to be 5'9", trying to see over those guys and find open receivers over the middle would be very difficult. I don't think he helped himself either. I'm not sure why he went to the Senior Bowl. I guess he's wanted to be a competitor, so I commend him on doing that, but I don't think he really helped himself there. And let's just dig into these other quarterbacks who were there. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, the Green kid from Arkansas. I'm blanking on
Peyton from North Dakota State.
Yeah, the kid from Illinois.
Luke Altmaier.
Luke Altmaier, thank you. Yeah. Altmaier. Altmaier had he had a good career, and is a smart guy. I think he understands the game very well. But, I think he lacks arm talent a little bit.
Yeah.
And athletically, he's not the best. Sawyer Robertson, I think, had a really good season, but didn't really help himself in this game for sure. He was 1 of 5 and threw an interception. Peyton had some moments. He earned the offensive MVP and had a 19-yard run and some good completions. But honestly, how would you compare, I guess, this quarterback class for 2026 with last year's? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's not as good? How do you compare?
Not as good.
You like last year's better?
Yeah, I do like last year's.
Oh, God, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's scary because I
I
didn't really like last year's either.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you look at Taylon Green. This is a guy that has all the metrics, but he just never puts it together on the field. Like, this is a kid, like, I thought he was going to be a superstar at Boise, and he just never showed it. He never showed that next level ability. Some of the guys I like, though, you're not going to like me saying this because he's from South Central University of Michigan, or SCUM, as you like to call it. Derek Moore, Michigan, edge guy. Man, he killed it at the Senior Bowl. Gabe Jackas, edge out of Illinois, another one of those guys that was trucking offensive linemen on a regular basis. You nailed Zion Young. Caleb Banks did himself a lot of favors. The D tackle out of Florida was blowing up interior guys like they weren't even there. Lee Hunter, the D tackle out of Texas Tech, I thought was phenomenal. And then what about Bud Clark, the safety out of TCU? Let's be honest, safety is becoming a bigger and bigger need across the board, trying to find good safeties in the NFL. I think he did himself some real good in this Senior Bowl practices and getting him ready.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think the D-line, usually the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense in these all-star games just because it's easier to get a scheme implemented on the defensive side instead of trying to teach people plays and get them to remember them and know where they're going. So I think the defense obviously has a leg up, but I agree with you. I think the D-line showed some real flash as far as the talent level goes there. And I don't know what to think about this year's crop of quarterbacks. Even if you go outside the Senior Bowl, and you add in Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson and Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller, all those guys, I think it might be a little bit deeper this year.
Could
but
be.
I think last year probably Cam Ward and some of those guys may be a little bit more talented. Obviously, Tyler Shuck has proven that he's a pretty damn good quarterback. I think he deserved where he was drafted. Maybe should have gone even higher. But we know, just as history tells us, that there is going to be some of these guys overdrafted. I think Nussmeier is a guy that may, depending on who all needs a quarterback, might go a little bit higher than we think. Just because that's what happens, man. Quarterbacks, once Mendoza goes, once Ty Simpson goes, well, then there's going to be a run, and anybody else that needs a quarterback is going to start overdrafting. You agree with that?
Oh, there's a reason Christian Ponder got drafted as high as he did. It was based on scarcity. Yeah.
Jake Locker.
Jake Locker. Oh my God. Yeah. You can go down the line. There's quite a few guys out there. It's hard for them because now they have to live up to those expectations of being like those guys that go in the first round. But it is the way it is. What do you do about it? So
it's the most important position on the field.
Yeah.
And that's why it gets overdrafted, because if you don't have one, you need one. And there's just not many of these guys out there. On the free agent market, you're not going to get some crafty veteran to come in and save your team. And the only way to really do it these days is to start with a youngster and hope you can develop them and hope they can be, something more to you. Anybody else that you think really may have hurt themselves by going to the Senior Bowl this year?
Jacoby Lane, receiver out of USC, I thought really didn't do well. He looked slow, didn't catch the ball very well. And that's a kid I was pretty high on. And then Cage Casey, the tackle out of Boise. Grant, there are a lot of offensive linemen that got rolled up on. He got rolled up on a lot. So,
yeah, no, that's one of the things that I think is a shame is when you hurt yourself from going down there, because I think you should get some credit just for being there. But another guy who did show up and look good was Malachi Fields.
Yes.
The kid out of Notre Dame, I think he looked good. But yeah, Cage Casey, Jacoby Lane, and then also Romello Height. The edge from Texas Tech. For whatever reason, he did not really impress and struggled a little bit. And then, the quarterbacks in general, Luke Altmaier was probably the best quarterback if you go back and watch tape from practices, but didn't look good in the game. And then, guys, like we just said, will try and sell you on Cole Payton from North Dakota or Taylon Green from Arkansas, say they had good weeks, and they showed some potential. But I think you'll see some of the bad too if you watch all the practices and stick into it. But yeah, Jacoby Lane, I don't know. I can't really explain what happened. I mean, he's 6'4", he's up 200 pounds. He looked kind of lanky to me, and just had a bunch of drops throughout the week and also on the game. And you want to see some contested catches, and you didn't really see that. And then Cage Casey, the other guy you brought up, I had a couple of guys that I thought were higher than him as far as the Boston College tackle Jude Bowery. I like him a little bit better, but it looked like Casey had a little bit more technical work to do than some of those other guys, but still may be a developmental day 3 guy. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, when you get to the Senior Bowl, unless you really stub your toe, you're probably going to get drafted somewhere as long as you're not a kicker or punter. I think you're probably looking at 5th, 6th, 7th round. Someone will take a run at him and see what they can do with him.
Yeah, I think so too. But still, I watched a little bit of the East-West Shrine game as well. And I always give guys credit, just for going down there and competing. I think that's says something about these kids if they're willing to go and work against some of the other best players in the country and lay it all out there. I have to give credit to that. Before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about, you wanted to dig in a touch to the new Mountain West. Take it away.
Well, there's rumor out of Fargo that the NDSU, North Dakota State Bison, may be leaving the Missouri Valley and joining the Mountain West Conference as a football-only member. That is going to make this conference really good. I mean, with all they've lost to the new Pac-12 or whatever the heck they're going to call it, I think if the Mountain West can bring in them, South Dakota State, and even bring in Sacramento State, who's really putting in serious investment, I think this is going to be a very good football conference. And I just feel bad for Hawaii because now they've got even farther flights to play conference games. But, I mean, if you've watched any football over the past few years, man, North Dakota State, I mean, this is a pretty good freaking program. And it's interesting, UTEP, Northern Illinois becoming members. This conference is getting more and more interesting from a football perspective. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that would really kind of solidify them as a conference to watch. Yeah. If they can add this team. Now, the one thing I'm a little bit weary of is we've seen this before. Appalachian State had a run there where they were winning championships at the, what do they call it now?
FCS.
FCS. Thank you. I always call it I still call it the Division I AA because
Me too.
That's what it was when I was growing up. It was 1 AA, and Appalachian State had so much success there for a while. Went up there and beat that team up north in the Big House. Still one of the greatest games in the history of football, and won several championships there in Boone, North Carolina. And then since they've moved up, haven't really done a whole lot. I mean, I think financial situation is part of that. I think back to Marshall, when they were a 1 AA school, when they had Chad Pennington and Randy Moss and the kid from Florida, who was also their quarterback, and they had so much success, and they moved up, and they've had some success, but it's going to be hard, I think, to expect them to play for championships once they get to the next level. And what if you're the athletic director of North Dakota State? Do you want to stay where you are and continue to be the best and win titles, or do you want to move up and fight for the 12th spot in the 12-team playoff? What would you do?
If I'm North Dakota State, yeah, I'd follow James Madison's route because they played James Madison quite a bit to go for those titles. And I think I would make that run. I mean, hell, if they could, bring the rest of the sports with them too as well, because there's money at North Dakota State where they can do it. Plus, playing in the Fargo Dome is no treat. That is a very, very, very hard place to play, and it is very loud because it's maybe, 20,000 people, but it's inside, and that sound just belts across the place, and the sidelines are very tight.
Man, there's nothing I love more than those little tiny domes, like the one that doesn't Idaho play in a dome?
Yeah, they play in the Kibbe Dome. It's like,
I love that thing.
It looks like a freaking beer can ripped in half. On top of it has that big circle on it. I mean, you get those places, they're just so small. I mean, the team, you look at some places like Iowa, where it's 8 yards from where the fans sit to where the field of play begins. You can't help but feel the fans on top of you that entire game. And that's how it is in Fargo.
Yeah. No, I've been to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa, and we sat in the 4th row, and we were right on top of the field. But I do think, the Mountain West is also another conference that's, looking pretty good. And if a lot of people don't realize this, but UNLV was 10-4. New Mexico was 9-4. San Diego State finished up 9-4. Boise was 9-5. Fresno won 9 games. Hawaii won a bunch of games. I mean, they had some good teams. And then if, Air Force can get back going, Wyoming can get back going. Nevada has had good teams in the past. Obviously, Colorado State just hired Jim Mora Jr., hoping to bring some spunk back to the program. San Jose State has had some decent teams in the past, or at least some decent players. And then if you can add in NDSU, I think you may be onto something.
I mean, honestly, I would personally like to have South Dakota State there too as well, because I put South Dakota State in the same breath as North Dakota State. Those are two really good programs that people just don't talk about.
I agree, and I've watched. I watched North Dakota State play Colorado. Was it not this year, but the year before? And matched them. Play for play for 4 quarters, and had just about the same amount of talent and maybe a little bit more wherewithal to them. So I think they can definitely compete if you get them into the big boys football. Then they'll have more money to go out and keep some of their guys that may bolt otherwise. So I do think it's something to keep our eyes on. But regardless, we're going to put a big bow on the 2025 season and move on to 2026, as we are going to talk draft and we're going to talk portal movement in the weeks to come. James, keep your chin up, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Okay, buddy?
See you, man. Good to see you.
Bud. All right, keep your chin up.
All right, later.
See you. Bye.